Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia, the three largest countries of maritime Southeast Asia. During the mid-20th century, after all the Westerners had left these cursed lands, there was a small chance that these three countries, alongside Singapore probably, could have been the Yugoslavia of Asia. That's right, we're talking about Maphilindo. Prior to the arrival of the Europeans, the Malay archipelago has been well connected with each other through trade, religion, and culture, with many various empires and kingdoms having massive territories and influences throughout the region. Now, the idea of a united Malay nation came from the least Malay country out of the three. Although Filipinos are definitely related to Malaysians and Indonesians, there was a misconception that Malays migrated up north to the Philippines. It was said by this dude. But later on, it was found out that it was actually the other way around. Austronesians came from Taiwan, migrated down south to the Philippines, and then down south to Malaysia and Indonesia. Which kinda explains why the Philippines is very different from the two. But anyways, Filipino gigachad / national hero Jose Protasio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Rialonda, or just Jose Rizal, had aspirations of a united Malay nation as he sees the Malay people had been divided by colonial powers. The Philippines would then gain independence from Spain in 1898 and from the United States in 1946. Leaving aside the fact that the Philippines had been thrown to the shadow realm during World War II, the transition to independence from the United States had been peaceful. However, for the neighboring Indonesia down south, it was quite the opposite. They went through a brutal war against the Dutch right after World War II, and finally gained independence in 1949. Indonesia and their first president, Sukarno, just Sukarno, has a strong stance against the West. Meanwhile, on the north of Sumatra, Malaya had gained independence from the United Kingdom, with their first prime minister, Tunku Abdul Rahman. Unlike Indonesia, however, Malaya had been very friendly to their former colonizers, which made the "I'm not a big fan of the West," in fact, them, Indonesia, just a little bit wary. But the issue was with the island of Borneo. There are three remaining British holdings in Borneo: Brunei, North Borneo, and Sarawak. The Philippines had claims on North Borneo, as there was an old treaty giving the land to the Sultan of Sulu. As for Indonesia, they don't want these territories to join Malaya. Not only do they want to unite all of Borneo, they see them as British puppets at their doorsteps. And so the conflicts within the borders of Borneo began to take shape, as Indonesia supports communist rebels in Sarawak, North Borneo, and Brunei. So in 1963, a summit was held in Manila to resolve the border disputes. Then, President Diosdado Macapagal, to quote-unquote unite the Malay people, proposed the idea of a confederation of Malaya, the Philippines, and Indonesia. They would have had a population of over 135 million, have a large-ass army, and a large-ass economy. Maphilindo would undoubtedly be a major player in the Cold War in Asia. Even JFK liked this idea, as it would prevent Indonesia from becoming full communist. So, what went wrong? So, Malaya was obviously not down with this idea, as it was just a ploy to delay the formation of Malaysia. And so, the idea of Maphilindo dropped. The three countries had agreed that a referendum should be held on Sarawak, North Borneo, and Brunei, Singapore as well, to decide their future. Spoiler alert, Sarawak and North Borneo chose to join Malaya, although Brunei chose to opt out on this one. And so, on the 16th of September 1963, the Federation of Malaysia was formalized. Even though Indonesia signed to the agreement, they weren't still having it, and still continued training and supporting communist rebels in Malaysian Borneo and Brunei. A confrontation had been developed between the two nations. It started with raids, then escalated to the actual Indonesian army being deployed to the grounds. The conflict had also spilled onto the Malay Peninsula itself. And of course, the relations between Malaysia and Indonesia had been greatly, severely damaged. The conflict would last for over 4 years and only ended after a coup took place against Sukarno. Sukarno would be replaced by the dictator Suharto. Just Suharto, who didn't have the same foreign policy as his predecessor. Confrontasi officially concluded in 1966 with a peace agreement in Bangkok. Also, Filipino dictator Ferdinand Marcos Sr. also has interests in annexing North Borneo. However, he failed lmao. Never even landing on North Borneo. Massive L. While Maphilindo may not exist today, a new association was formed. On the 8th of August 1967, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations was formed. While it may not be as strong and united as the EU, the association does its best to settle disputes and improve relations between members. If Maphilindo were to be a country today, it would have a population over 400 million and an economy of $2.5 to $3 trillion. It would be one of the major powers of not only just in Asia, but all over the world. However, if somehow Maphilindo did form in 1963, I couldn't help but think it would fall apart similar to Yugoslavia during the 1990s. There's just too much going on already on each country. The last thing they want is to add more problems than they can already handle. While it may not be a singular country today, the three does share cultures and trade with each other. They bond together with the same familial bond that dates back from the early settlers that had arrived in these islands. These three countries sees each other as brothers. The Philippines is definitely the oddball of the brothers. Anyways, that's all for today. Thank you for watching.